Good morning, grade 12s. Today, we're going to be looking at conflict management. Now, in businesses, you have to deal with a lot of conflict all the time. I know when I worked as a junior brand manager for the franchise Juicy Lucy, which you won't know about, your parents will know about, it was right at the end of their lifespan. We only had 40 stores left. It was after having 400 stores that were bigger than Wimpy. And my job as the little brand manager at 20 years old was to try and negotiate and manage conflict with the franchisees because they were so disgruntled and so unhappy with the situation and with what was happening with the business. So it was extremely difficult to do. Now, with conflict management, remember, you've got two types of conflict. You've got functional conflict, where things are actually going to get better. Now, functional conflict is where two people are having a discussion and you agree to disagree and you voice your opinion, and it's quite a controlled situation. You're allowed to disagree and you're allowed to be passionate about how you feel, but it's not getting personal, it's not getting nasty. It's listening to one another and almost trying to come to some sort of compromise or a win-win situation. So a lot of the times we would say, you know what, I'm going to lose this battle, but I'll win the war. You know, that was kind of a saying that I always had. So it's fine. I'm not going to argue too much about this point. But certainly when we get to the bigger strategies or the bigger things, then I'm going to go in and ensure that I'm heard. So functional conflict definitely deals with conflict in a healthy manner. The outcome is generally positive. Both people feel, you know, even if people haven't taken to what you've said, you don't feel like you've been undermined at any time. And this kind of conflict will lead to innovation, creativity, and higher productivity. So I can give an example is that we would sit in a boardroom and my boss at that time was quite a dynamic, charismatic person. And he would say, but why? Why are you doing this? And you actually have to take 4 steps back and say, why am I doing this? Why are we launching this? Why are we putting this on TV? Why are we looking at print ads for this kind of product? So that kind of discussion started getting everybody talking, brainstorming, can't we do things differently? Dysfunctional conflict is a very negative conflict. It surely has a decline in productivity. There's misconceptions, your ambition gets in the way, egos, there's a lot of mistrust and blaming and stress, and it's really not a great environment to work in. I have worked in that environment before, and it was literally, the company was going through a changeover of lots of things. Lots of people were leaving, but also we had new management that was going to be coming in. So our old boss was going to be going out. He was from a different country, so he didn't always understand South Africa so well. With that, there would be mistrust within the department. People would be talking about one another. In meetings, I remember our financial manager would deliberately withhold information so that you could go down the path, and then this person, once you've gone down the path, once you've done all this work, would then say, oh no, sorry, we tried to do this years ago, it didn't work, this is the reasons why, and it's not going to work. So there was this complete mistrust within this business. Right, so how do we try and resolve conflicts? Well, Stephen R. Covey said, seek first to understand, then to be understood. And I love that. Take a minute, hush, and just listen. But really listen. Don't listen, because I've also got to stop myself. Don't listen that you're trying to now think, what can I come back with? Listen. You're going to get your time to talk. Take a breath. Even wait, pause, and then answer. So some of the reasons that there's conflict within workplace is exactly the same as in any other life. In school, I mean, why would there be conflict at school? Different personalities. You have clashes of different personalities, backgrounds, cultures, poor communication. Oh my goodness, that is one of the biggest problems in corporate is poor communication. Someone has been told X, you don't know, you've got to be part of the situation, part of the solution, but you haven't been informed. So you almost get your back up and say, well, I'm not going to be doing this. I haven't been included in this meeting. So, and there, can you see that snowball effect? Any kind of change will bring about conflict. People do not like change. People like to stick to what they know. And you've really got to try within your own personality to adopt change. I say every day, go sit somewhere different. Even at school, if that's possible, go and sit at a different chair. Just start involving change in your life. If you do certain things every day, change it up a little bit. It's good to adapt and to be able to change. And it is such an advantage in a business if you are able to do that. And then, of course, limited resources is also going to be the problem. So how do we manage conflicts? Grade 12s, they always ask this kind of question. They're going to ask you, what are the reasons for conflict, which we've done now? And you can even come up with your own. They might give you a scenario. In Checkers, the manager has decided he's going to be doing a new promotion, and the cashiers are upset about it because they actually don't know all the information. So there is already, you can see the reasons for conflict is that there's no communication, manager is not involving people. You've got to bring your staff with you with promotions, bring your staff with you with change. This is what they're going to also be asking you, is how do you manage conflict? There are 5 ways in which you can manage conflict. The first is called accommodating. Now you're accommodating the other person. You're cooperative, you're not assertive, and you're trying to get to a bit of a win-win situation. So you're accommodating them. And you've got to see which situation you get into. So for example, if it was a legal situation, so for example, someone was doing something completely illegal, I'm not going to accommodate. So have a look at what situation they give you in IB. But if the person doesn't want to sit in an office next to the door, but they want to sit next to the window, and I would accommodate, and I was like, okay, no problem. Let's try and accommodate you. Let's see what we can do. So accommodating is cooperative, but not assertive. Another way of managing conflict is to avoid it. And some people do. That they just actually avoid it, let it die down, let it fizzle out, ignore the situation and carry on. And that again depends on what kind of situation. If you avoid conflict all the time, you really are going to have issues within the business. You really, really are. If you have a look in YouTube at The Office, it's a sitcom, you will see that they avoid conflict all the time in quite a comical way. So that's quite a good one to watch from how not to handle conflict. The third managing conflicts heading is collaboration or cooperation. And that is where you are really trying to work together. And that's generally, you would say, this is the goal, guys. This is the objective. Let's collaborate. Let's cooperate with one another. We hear each other out, but let's really try to work together. And that is something that you would do most often in business, in corporates. The other way of managing conflict is there's a competing, where you compete. And that is where you really feel that I'm not going to change with this. So for example, the managers decided we're going to adjust the quality of the product, and you as the brand manager decide, you know what, we're not going to be changing the quality. If we change the quality, our customers are not going to be happy, they're going to be going. So that's where you are not prepared to give in those certain situations. You do find sometimes competing conflict strategy is where some people they're always competing. They're never compromising. So you've got to just be careful that have a look at the situation. If it's a small situation, there's no need to compete. You can kind of do the collaboration and cooperate and accommodate. But in certain circumstances, you're going to do the competing strategy where you just say, I'm not going to be giving in. We're not going to be compromising on quality in our stores at all. Then the last one is compromising. Now, compromising is obviously one of the best ones with collaboration and cooperating. And that is where parties are trying to find solutions. And you would normally say, I hear you. Can we do this? I hear you. Can we do this? What is your solutions? And that's a lot of the times I would say to people is, yes, okay, you disagree. What do you suggest? So I want to hear what your suggestion is. I want to hear what your solution is. And then we can come to some sort of a decision. Okay, now I've got some of these YouTube clips in the slide that you can go have a look at. We're looking now at what are our third-party interventions in the workplace. So there are 3 third-party interventions, and you're going to deal with this in labor. But I thought, let's put this in now so that you are familiar with these third-party interventions. The first is a workplace forum. Now, workplace forum will be established if you employ 100 employees or more. And basically, it's a body of employees and employers that have been chosen to represent all the employees. Okay, but you've got the employer involved as well. And that forum is going to be discussing any kind of issues, health and safety, new work methods, job grading, bonuses, education, training. They don't discuss salary and wages at this forum. So there's no negotiation in terms of salary and wages, but the employees can be heard on all the other elements that impact on their jobs. Another third-party intervention is your trade unions, and you've also got employer organizations. Now, this forms part of your Labor Relations Act. A trade union is there representing the employees. The employees pay the trade union body a fee every month, and the trade union will work in their best interests. You've got lots of different trade unions that you could belong to, and if you have a dispute, because you don't always have possibly the knowledge, the labor, the legal information, you would get hold of your trade union. The trade union would establish whether it is something, it's a grievance, whether that is something that they are able to come through and start negotiating, and they would come through to the employer and start negotiating better working conditions or salary or wage or whatever the case is. You've also, on the flip side, got employer organizations. An employer organization is one of the big ones is COFISA, which is Confederation of Employers Organization in South Africa. They are also going to guide your employers on the labor legislation, on employment contracts, training, negotiations. So they, on the other side, will help your employers. You also then have the Commission for Conciliation, Mediation, and Arbitration. You've got a dispute with an employer. You're not being heard. It's a dispute on working conditions. You can then go to the CCMA and you can say to them, that's the acronym for Commission for Conciliation, Mediation, Arbitration. And they will come through as a neutral person. That's the first step, which is conciliation. They will sit as an independent party and they will listen to the employer and the employee, and they will understand what the grievance is about. Hopefully they can start resolving because they've got you guys talking now. But if it doesn't resolve, you then go to mediation. Mediation is where the CCMA will then make a recommendation. They will then say, I've heard both of you. This is what I recommend, employer. This is what I recommend, employee. We're hoping at that stage, at mediation, that everything has been resolved and everyone can go and do their work and carry on. But if it's not resolved, you then move into arbitration. And arbitration is where the CCMA will issue an instruction. They will say, this is how we recommend you settle this dispute. And normally you would then, but in arbitration, you would accept that. However, if you don't, you can then refer the issue to Labour Court, and then you're getting lawyers and everything involved. If at Labour Court you're still not happy, you can then go to the Labour Appeal Court. Okay. Sometimes CONARB, C-O-N-A-R-B, which is conciliation and arbitration, happen on the same day. So the CCMA will listen to both sides, will then issue an instruction and say to you how to settle the dispute. Okay, so those are your third-party interventions that can help within a business. Right, grade 12s, I hope you have a wonderful day. Have a look at some of the YouTube clips I've put in there. I've got some songs in there just to make it a little bit more fun. It'd be nice if you learned the conflict song. And we will be chatting tomorrow. Have a wonderful day.